Welcome back to another exciting episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. It's Valentine's Day. We have a very special guest, Rich Gaspari, here, and it is February 15th. It's actually the day after Valentine's Day, 2021, and I want to welcome in the entire panel of awesome guests, Lee Priest, Chris Aceto, of course, John Romano, and Richie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Richie had to take a little crystal meth to keep himself awake. So
that was my bedtime.
Here's a proper introduction for the Dragon Slayer. You got to have a proper one.
Oh, you're doing intros like Mr. G now.
I know this pose routine.
Turn off this song.
Wow.
Rich, is that 80? Lee, is that 87?
Yes, Lee,
87. And Rich wore black trunks in 87.
I thought only like Sean Ray was like the historian with knowing all the routines.
No, we know your posing routine. I remember that too.
The thing was, I was actually talking about Rich on Sunday because I was doing legs, and as I was doing leg press, I flashed back to Rich's doing leg press when he always said to get the better squeeze on the quads, he would roll back on the balls of his feet and lift his toes up.
I learned that from Lee Haney.
I was doing that.
And Lee Haney had no calves.
Sunday. No, it's for doing, not calves, it's for your quads. When you're doing your presses, you'd roll back on the heels.
Yeah, you lift it up so you get more tension on your thighs.
Right.
The secrets that the young kids these days don't know about.
No.
Does anyone even train calves anymore?
No, they should.
Is it a necessary body part in today's bodybuilding? What happened to calves, Chris? There's only a few of the.
I said they shoot them, Rich.
They what?
I don't think anyone trains them
them
anymore.
They just shoot them.
No, seriously, I've had guys, Rich, come to me and tell me that do I think they should train their calves? And I'm like, what do you mean you don't? Why would you leave any muscle group out? They're like, well, I didn't think you needed to. I'm like, doesn't it get enough indirect stimulation? I'm like, I said. That's what the people who don't train abs. I'm like, why don't you?
Yeah, I was just
abs?
gonna say, Rich. I'm sure Rich knows. Just like he's living on Mars. Rich, people don't train abs anymore.
I just can't believe how.
I know.
It's gotten a sport where you know. Obviously, I see a lot of bodybuilders don't train calves and are still placing very high, and it doesn't really matter anymore on calf training, which was a necessity back when I trained. So.
I think too back when we trained too, we'd train. We didn't worry about the clock, so you'd just train however long your workout took. That's how long it took. Now they're like 45 minutes. Haven't got time for abs. Haven't got time for carbs. We've got to get out of the gym. I'm going catabolic. I've got to go and eat. Haven't got time.
They don't even leave the gym to eat. They have like insulin syringes loaded up, and they have vats of like carbohydrates to drink, right?
I'm glad this podcast doesn't do it, but I've watched a few lately where during the podcast, the guy sit there with the bowl of food. I've done
several of those, yeah. You just got to eat. God forbid they do it.
I do know, like, Chris, you still use, like, old school methods, like Bob Ruskin.
Rich, listen, I have so many good things to say about Rich because, first of all, the nickname I want to give him is Rain Man. Because it's true. Because every single question ever asked to Rich, he starts off with, "Well, hard work, and I just hard work, and I just figured it's hard work, and I'd outwork everyone, and Lee Haney, I'd outwork him, and Samir, and I'll outwork him, and Gary Stridham, I'll outwork him, and right."
Yeah, true.
And I can tell you, Rich, I don't know if you remember this, is 87. You came to the bodybuilding camp. And the thing that blew my mind, not about you, but everyone else who was pros that summer. So the bodybuilding camp, Rich came out, spent the whole entire week at Loyola Marymount University. And it was like the Rich Gaspari week. So he attracted all the crazy hardcore 18 to 24-year-old bodybuilders. And they'd come out and spend a whole entire week with us. And Rich would be the featured bodybuilder. Then like Haney would have his week, and Barry DeMay his week, and Samir his week, that type of thing. And the thing that I was most shocked with when I first came out was that everybody like ate, but they didn't like know exactly what they were eating. You know, they would eat like 5 meals a day or 6 meals a day, but they just wing it. And I just couldn't believe it. And it was because at that point I was like 21 and Dave, and I would like weigh everything. So Rich came out, first thing he gets to his room, the scale comes out. Right. And the other thing is that whole week, you know, it was like a busy week. And they'd give like the people like, hey, you know, Lee Haney or whoever it was, Corey Everson, here's a schedule for the week. And Rich was just like, okay, am I going to get I train in the morning at 10. And then I got, you know, you had his 100% schedule and he could not miss it. Right.
I'm still very scheduled. I'm very regimented in my life.
He told us before the show, before you came on, that he goes to the gym at 5 in the morning, you know, and he can't get out of the routine, you know.
Right. And this was very hard for me. I had to take a nap.
I had to force him.
And we had to do a couple lines of crystal meth.
And I will say, Dave, those, you know, Rich might not brag, but I will for him. You know, everyone who was in the Olympia, 87, came out to train in California, and nobody trained as hard as Rich, period, or as long, or as heavy and as hard. And I remember it was, he trained twice a day, right?
Yeah.
Did you do 3 on, 1 off at that time? Or it's 6 straight?
I would do it, well, before the show, 6 days straight.
Yeah.
Twice a day. And then midday, I would go in the posing room that was there in Venice.
Yeah.
And pose for like an hour and a half.
So, you know, I mean, the net, I don't remember like what you were eating back then, but I remember like that first day I asked you, of course, like what? And you told me, I think it was like 2,800 calories or 32.
Yeah. Between 20 and 32.
But
on a diet.
You know, if you factor in the expenditure, it was like 000 low carbs. Because the workouts would deplete you down to, I mean, would deplete anyone else. Wouldn't maybe deplete you down, but I mean, people who were in the Olympia that year would not be able to handle those workouts for sure. Because I saw everyone's workout that whole summer, and the people who were impressive, actually really impressive in the gym was number 1, Rich by a mile. Luis Freitas was really good too. He was like balls to the walls all the time.
What happened to Luis?
And Sugar Sean beat it up in the gym.
Did he?
But yeah, he did.
He trained. Yeah, Sean trained hard. He did.
I always wondered how Sean trained.
It was for a pretty boy. He'd bang it up.
And then like someone like Flex Wheeler, I heard he didn't train really hard.
No, but if I'm sure if somebody came to Rich and said, you know, you're the 4th hardest trainer here, you probably would have been like the next day would have been back to Rain Man. Hard work.
Richard, had you been around when Dorian was competing? Like, you think? I mean, can you imagine training with him? Because I mean, you were a hard trainer, and Dorian was like insane.
He had a different style. He did heavy duty, which I wasn't into heavy duty. I was into supersets and drop sets and giant sets.
Right.
And, you know, training.
How do you think your body would have responded to the Dorian type of training? I think you would have gotten
tried
bigger.
Training like that. I didn't like that training method. I don't know if Lee used it as well. Was it crazy?
Yeah. I was always same as you, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. And then, or if I didn't train at night, I'd at least do 2 hours in the morning and then do 2 hours of cardio during the day, or 2 to 3 hours because I like to eat. But that would be unheard of now, Rich. You're crazy training 2 hours in the morning and 2 at night. I'm a professional bodybuilder. I got to play Game Station all day. I can't just go to the gym. I got the PlayStation. What are you, crazy? I got nothing to do. I got to just get on Instagram. I can't train. Wake up to yourself.
Rich didn't do much cardio though.
I didn't do it. I didn't do that much cardio. No,
he didn't need it. He was in the gym for 3 hours.
The training that I did was my cardio. Right. So I did some cardio. You know, years later, my metabolism kind of slowed down because I trained so hard. So I had to add cardio to it, but never 2 hours. You know, maybe 40.
Well, Eddie Giuliani, when I was at World Gym all the time, he would say that back in their day, they wouldn't do cardio. Him, Arnold, and them would just train longer and longer, and that was pretty much their cardio. And I could have done that with my workouts because I trained for the 2 hours. But when I got home, even when dieting, see, my normal diet, I was probably close to 4,000 calories because I do the training, but then I do 2 to 3 hours of cardio because rather than sacrifice food, I'll just eat more food than go do another hour of cardio.
which never makes up for it, by the way.
No, it doesn't.
Ronnie Coleman. What everyone's like, why did Coleman need to do 2.5 hours of cardio a day? I said because he was eating, 2 bottles of Masterpiece barbecue sauce a day, which was all sugar.
Fried chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken.
But it was the barbecue. He had put on everything.
On everything, he coated it with sugar, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Someone wants to know, Richie, did you wear a belt when you trained?
I did wear a belt. It was very hard. I got a belt now for Cardillo. I had the same belt since I competed from, in the 80s. And just recently I retired that belt. So that was my favorred belt.
Once they get worked in, you don't want to stop using them.
You don't want to stop using them. It's still like a better belt, but because Cardillo gives me so many belts, I use his belts.
Yeah,
and they are good.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So did you see Iris, Kyle, and Hide opening a gym in Vegas, Powerhouse Gym? Rich, does Hide still work for you?
Yes, Hide's still an athlete of mine.
Wow. How long has that been?
It's 10 years. He's been an athlete for 10 years.
That's crazy.
And it's amazing because he really does a great job. He gets us into the Asian market. We are really strong in Japan, and we're growing even stronger. But Hide is one of the reasons. We actually have a contract deal right now with a Japanese distributor, and we're coming up with actually a Hide series. So we have one of the products that has Hide on it, and if it works out well, we'll come up with more products.
He gets his own flavor.
It's hard to get into Japan, isn't it? They have like weird laws and stuff like that, right?
What's very hard is you can't really send products there because it's impossible, but direct to consumer you can. So there's a website basically in the US that distributes product directly into Japan and in really large volumes.
Oh wow! Now it's your website, or it's another company?
No, it's not my website. It's another company.
What's the name of the website for our Japanese listeners?
Suplinks.
So Dave can get species in it. Write it down, Dave.
No, it's almost impossible. Richie's right. You can't send supplements. Matter of fact, on your website, when you do like a credit card processing, you have to sign something saying you won't sell supplements to Japan or something like that, right?
I don't sell. I don't know how he does it, how they do it. But they definitely get products into Japan. Actually, Hide has his own website, Body Cafe, that he gets products into Japan as well.
Yeah, he carries a bunch of products that he goes.
He's actually one of my good customers, being also an athlete, but he also sells a lot of the product as well.
No, it's smart. That's very smart. Yeah, I mean
he gets his own flavor now.
He actually have mango size on his.
That's great.
Hide flavor.
Here's the question. If Hide and Iris, who's a 10-time Miss Olympia, of course, open up a Powerhouse Gym, which it looks like they did, right? The announcement. Will that be in direct competition with Flex Lewis's Dragon's Lair?
I would think so.
Right?
I would think so. Also a former athlete of mine, Flex.
Yep.
That's right. Oh, yeah. I forgot that. that.
Richie owns Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, is there enough space for 2 hardcore gyms in Vegas?
I mean, Vegas is very big.
Vegas is growing so big.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Gold's Gym closed down there, the big giant Gold's Gym. So
there were 4 of them, right there.
Yeah, there's only one left now or 2.
None. No, there's none left.
None. But what Iris and Peter were at the gym they were at was that guy Jay. Downtown Athletics.
How did that thing close? That was
the most amazing gym. I love that gym.
Yeah.
I knew they had some type of financial issues because
I'm sure
he was going to buy that place.
Oh, he was.
He was going to buy that place, and he didn't. He didn't buy it, and now he's got this other place that he's.
What a shame! That gym was so perfect, tweaked out. It was so gorgeous. It was pretty to look at, actually. Right?
Beautiful.
With the big. Once the Olympia goes back to Vegas, hopefully, I guess he's going to be. The gym where the athletes will.
That's right. Yeah. They're going to be competing.
Which gym would Jay Cutler train at? This is the question.
Doesn't Mark? I think Mark Anthony has a gym down there too, doesn't he?
The singer,
Mark Anthony, the men's class first men's physique Olympia guy. Mark Flex Anthony, another Flex guy.
Another Flex.
So we were saying before the show, Flex Lewis stole the Flex name from Flex Wheeler, and then he stole the Dragon's lair. The Dragons from Richie. He was the original Dragon's lair.
And now he has the Dragon's lair.
That's right. Now, Richie, you were a gym owner. I forgot that for a while.
I had a gym
in Jersey,
right? From like 90 to like 96. I closed my gym. And that's when I started Gaspari Nutrition in 1997.
Was it? What was the gym in business like?
I had a Gold's Gym, and then I had I used to go into this New Age Muscle. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. You had a supplement thing.
So I had a New Age Fitness Center. That's what I called it. But it was funny because I was calling it New Age, and I don't know why I was calling it New Age, but they all thought I was into like crystals and these New Age people. And they were contacting me. Back in the day, and they're telling me like, "Oh, you're into like New Age."
Yeah,
it's New Age. I didn't even know.
I think I used to have the New Age. Wasn't there a New Age VHS series of tapes of training?
Yes, New Age. I had 3 video series with
legs.
New Age,
it's like
New Age
legs.
training.
It was like chest and shoulders, and could have been legs and something else, and arms and something else. Yeah.
Here is my entrepreneurial thinking. Everyone had like one video. I said, let me do like 3 videos. So they have to buy the 3 videos
of course.
To higher training. So I sold 3 times more videos than Lee Haney back then because I had 2 videos instead of 1.
What would you make? Were you making good money off those videos?
Oh yeah, definitely. I had a website. Weider gave me. It wasn't a website then. It was a page in the magazine.
Right.
And it was funny because Joe would say, "What would you like, Richie? Would you like a page in my Muscle and Fitness, or would you like me to give
like
you
a game? It's like a game show."
What did you ask? How much money per month did he want to give you?
It's like $4,000 a month, and I go, Joe, I'll take the page because I know I can sell more shit on that page.
Oh yeah.
So he gave me 1 Flex, 1 in Muscle and Fitness. It was well worth it.
The Muscle and Fitness page was probably worth $15,000, right? I mean,
at least that's what I thought of the page. Yeah, it was funny because I had that page, and then other bodybuilders started thinking they started selling those pages.
Right.
To other advertisers, which, I don't think Joe was figuring people were going to do that.
Yeah. It was a great idea. Whoever came up with that first.
Something like that.
Tanya Knight made a real nice twist out of that. So she got with Body Alive, right? Yeah. And so Weider was going to give her the page of advertising. She was going to do the same deal, like $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever. Or you can have the page in Muscle and Fitness, which was worth like $15,000. Yeah. So she takes the page of Muscle and Fitness, turns around and sells it to Body Alive for $10,000. They get a $5,000 discount.
Oh wow!
She gets $6,000 more than Joe was going to give her.
It's smart.
I don't know how long that lasted before Joe put the kibosh on that, but it was a good idea for a while.
I paid for those. I think in Australia I paid $59.95 for each VHS tape back in the day.
Oh wow! How much? And they weren't that good. I mean,
$59.95. But back there, I had yours. I had Lee Haney's, and then. Who was that lady from England? Diane Bennett. She did a couple of those training for the Olympia type ones, like a battle before the Olympia, but it used to be, was it Road to the Olympia? That Diane Bennett would come out.
Diane Bennett.
Yeah, she'd come out and do those videos.
Richie, you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh. Watch this. Hold on. Look what I found. Hold on a second.
You find the New Age video?
I did. You can buy it still. For $7.50. Wayne Gallish, it looks like he's selling it there, right?
I could have waited. Wayne Gallish still sells everything.
Richard,
there it is.
You should make a deal that when you buy the Physique Bible, your new book, they get the New Age muscle
video.
I'll tell you one thing. I had a couple of those. it really was good. I mean, I learned a lot of, I watched your forum and how you executed, and you know what I mean? It was actually very instructional back then. There was no internet. People don't understand. You couldn't watch someone on Instagram training back then,
No. I did it with Lou Zwick. You remember Lou Zwick?
Oh, Lou did that for you? Okay.
Yes.
What was in it for him?
He made money off those videos. He actually gave he had a percentage I was getting. He was getting like 60, 40. And then I think after a year and a half, he gave me the videos.
So like was he shipping them for you originally, or was you shipping?
He was doing all the shipping, and he was paying me like a royalty.
Right.
And then it got to a point, it was actually like 2 years. And then he basically said, Rich, here's the tape, sell them yourself.
That's great.
I have to ask Rich, when you first met Lou Zwick in the very beginning, when I first met him and being on a different time zone, I used to get these calls at like 2 a.m. Hey, Lee, Lou Zwick, how big are your arms? How big do you think you can get them? How big are your legs? Who are you competing against? I'll be competing against Eddie Robinson. Do you think you can beat him? Do you think you can beat Eddie? I'm like, how do I know? I just get these weird phone calls. How big
he was a bit strange. That was another guy. I did a podcast with Stacy Kaufman, and I told was basically telling the story how he wanted to find me, and he came and knocked on my door, at my parents' door, and my parents just let him in. And I came home from the gym, and he's eating dinner in my house, and I'm like, why is this guy eating dinner in my house? Well, the same thing with Lou Zwick. Lou Zwick came, and just like Lee said, he's just a different guy. And he came to my house, and my parents fed him. He slept over in the spare room. And I'm like, Mom, I don't even know this guy.
Did your parents think it was a little weird, Richie?
My parents are just old school Italians, and they just, anyone who came over, it was, hospitality to take care of them.
Right.
But I mean, Rich was they're watching Rich turn into a celebrity, and all this to do going on, and then people are coming over looking for him. So what Italian mothers do, they feed you.
They must have vetted these guys good, because both of them were good for you. All right, watch this, Richie. Here, hold on. I found the video actually. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. How old were you there, Rich?
About 23.
Wow. Yeah. No one was that hard back then.
No.
Crazy muscle maturity for a kid that age.
Yeah. People were just not that ripped.
I don't even remember that, this was the new age.
This is the new age muscle. But this was supposed to be at the beginning of it or something like that. I guess they were posing footage.
The thing is, though, if younger kids watch these movies today, because I don't know where mine are, but if you watch these, I also had that pro-style bodybuilding book with Tom Platz on the cover. And I sometimes look back in these books and you forget some of these good old basic exercises, and the basics still work today rather than all this fancy new age shit people are doing. And you could watch Rich's videos now and look at some of those old books and you get the best workouts ever.
How old were you there, Rich?
I think I was around 14.
Wow. So you've been training for a long time,
I've been training probably like Lee Priest, probably like I started when I was 13. Started competing when there I'm about 16, and right there I'm 18.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Very early age.
When Victor Conte did the blood work for all the guys in the Olympia lineup, Richie came back slightly myostatin. Was it slightly myostatin negative or some degree of myostatin negativity?
I did have myostatin negative, I think, myself.
Wow.
And Flex Wheeler were myostatin negative. And, Victor Conte asked me, he goes, I have a question to ask you. He goes, do you have any black in you? I'm like, I said,
he's Italian. Of course he does.
I said, what do you mean? He goes, everyone who tested for this myostatin gene were black. There wasn't any white guys that had this. I said, not that I know of.
Richie's
John,
Richie's hard work turned it negative.
Are you Sicilian, Richie?
Right.
You're Sicilian, right?
No, I'm not Sicilian.
You're not.
I'm actually an area of Italy on the Adriatic Sea. Molise and Abruzzese. Bruno Sammartino was like Abruzzese.
Rich, didn't you compete against Victor Richards as a teen?
Yes. So one of the shows I went in was, Lou Zwick convinced me to compete in this show called the American Cup. And the America's Cup was the same time as there was the teenage division of the America's Cup. And he said, you got to go in this show. It's going to be much bigger. It's going to be in Los Angeles. And I didn't go into Teenage America. I ended up going into this America's Cup. And the guy I competed against was Victor Richards.
Oh, wow.
So when I saw him, I was like, holy crap, this guy is huge. He was already like 240 pounds at 19 years old, but he wasn't hard. So I was in real good condition, and I beat him. And at the end of the show, like Victor, he wanted to like kick my ass. He was like, you should have beat me. I said, what the hell do I have to do? And the judges decided,
You're lucky he didn't fire a gun at you like he did in Gold's Gym.
Is that what he did?
Ed said he hit the cash register.
I got the Victor Richards mug today.
He was a bit of a nut, Victor Richards, I have to say.
That's crazy. So needless to say, obviously he didn't like you after that, obviously.
Oh, it's funny. After I beat him in that teenage show in later years, and I turned pro, he really did respect me. Because I beat him, and
he never competed after that. I don't think really.
Well, he got his pro card.
Well, when Joe sent him to Nairobi,
Nigeria.
Yeah.
It wasn't a real.
It's like the loincloth classic. You're standing there with these they look like marathon runners in loincloths from Tarzan, and he's Victor Richards in the middle.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I don't even know where they found these guys. I think they made the show just for Victor, right?
Yeah, they just brought him just to get his pro card.
They found them out working the fields, like just hustling the cows around. They said, "Hey, come here, we got a contest." So, I mean,
it's funny because Victor Richards and Gaspari and Lee already said, they're volume trainers, right? Mm-hmm. And Dorian was like a crazy low volume trainer, and like the pendulum in people's mind switched instantaneously when Dorian started winning. Like, oh no, you can't do volume,
right?
You know what I mean? And and it was implied like, oh yeah, just people like Gaspari, it's way too much volume. It's body can't handle it, but your body gets used to the volume. You know what I mean? And it grows from the volume, obviously, right?
Well,
I mean, the irony. You know what the irony is Lee and Rich were like a million years ahead of their times in terms of their age and their development. Yeah. They weren't doing 2 sets.
Maybe Lee has no myostatin too.
I'm part Aboriginal.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew that was.
You know what?
But did you notice though back in the days, like Chris was saying with Rich and then the other people that did the high volume, was like when I used to talk about Bertel Fox or Nimrod King or these guys, I said you have a lot of guys today who are big and freaky, but when you'd see Rich, Bertel Fox and all these guys, just that density and hard look to their muscle, I don't think you can really get that without that volume training. Like guys today, you get some big freaky guys, but they still don't have that just quality, dense, chiseled looking muscle that the guys who did the volume had. And sadly, I think too, when people suddenly saw Dorian do these shorter workouts, they're like, I want to do that because 2 hours, that's too hard. Everyone wants to be big, huge and freaky, but they're looking for an easier way to do it when in the end, there is no easy way. It just comes down to hard work. It's like I'd get ready for shows and I'd be doing the cardio and Paul would be like, son, I'm not doing cardio. I'll just take more clenbuterol. I'll do this. I'm like, well, that will help you. I said, taking some clen or fat burners might help, but still, nothing's going to get you in shape like doing the hard work.
Well, it worked for Dillette because he was a genetic freak.
It comes back to Rich's mantra. His hard work.
You know what? I've looked at people's DNA. DNA testing is like the new thing, and I've seen there's so much variability in people's genetics that we're just tapping into. I think I've been predicting over the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot more people get their genetics, their DNA tested. And we'll find out why some people respond better to volume training and some people respond better to low intensity training. Because you know what? I guarantee you the people who respond better to the low volume, heavier weights are people who probably have recovery issues. Like their bodies just can't handle tremendous amounts of stress. Maybe cortisol levels go up too high. Because I know if I did too much volume, okay, I would get smaller. I wouldn't grow. You know, there was like almost like a sweet spot. Like I didn't do the Dorian like 1 or 2 sets, but I had to do less volume than most. I couldn't do 20 sets. I could do 12 or 15 sets, but if I did 25 sets, I probably would go in the other direction for whatever reason. And I'm sure it's linked to how my muscles respond. Whereas someone like a Rich Gaspari or even like a Ronnie Coleman, you know, Ronnie lifted heavy weights like Rich did and did volume, and they recovered somehow. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that he doesn't have myostatin. You know, there's definitely something to it. It's because different people respond different to different training styles.
This is true. Definitely. But, you know, there's a modification of the Bulgarian blast system. I think it was a variation of that. It basically does a 3-week rotation where you do 1 week. You find a working weight and you're doing 5 sets of 5 reps per exercise, probably 2-3 exercises per body part. The next week you do 8 by 8. Week after that you do like a high rep, you know, 2-3 sets of body part, you know, for 15 or 20 reps. And then you keep repeating that 5 by 5, 8 by 8, you know, what we call a deload week in CrossFit speak. So 5 by 5, 8 by 8, high reps, 5 by 5, 8 by 8, high reps. And that seems to get a nice balance of volume and you know, high volume and low volume training. And the people that do it to a high degree end up looking pretty dense. So I think there's something to varying that volume.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think that you have to find what works for your body. And if you try to do someone else's routine because you think that's going to get you huge, you're completely barking up the wrong trail because
it's definitely hit and miss.
Yeah.
What you mean if I don't train like Dorian and do his drug cycle, I won't look like him?
No, you won't.
I still remember when I was in Venice, this guy come up to me in the gym and he's like, Lee, I'm going to make some improvements this year. I said, why is that? He goes, oh, my mate lives in England and he went through Dorian's trash and he found Dorian's cycle. I'm on it right now. I'm like, okay, good luck.
People probably wouldn't even believe, Richie, what you took because they probably think you took more than you did. I know back in the 80s and 90s, the guys didn't use that much. What was a typical cycle back then?
It was not a lot. I mean, maybe like, and those were, you know, Anavar, like 8 pills a day, which what were they, 2 milligrams back then?
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah,
2.5. Really didn't take much tests. I did, you know, some Deca, Masterone.
You got the French
Ball and acetate. I loved before a show.
But you didn't do any in the off season, right? You always only did it up to the show, and then off season,
you know, then you would do your tests, your Sustanon, those type.
What was the Sustanon? What was the dosage of Sustanon in off season for you guys?
Maybe 500 to 750.
Yeah, and that was a lot, probably 750. People thought you were crazy, right?
Yeah. But when you do 3 vials, it's like, oh shit.
I know. Yeah. People thought you were like Richie was pushing the envelope at that point. Nowadays, you're a chump. What? The guys do it in one shot. Yeah.
Well, it was funny because when I trained with Tom Platz for like a year, he was telling me even back then the small amounts they used, like a bit of Deca here, some Dianabol in the off season and stuff, and the amounts they took when you tell people are like, oh, they were taking more than that. You got to take more than that because I know guys that go to the gym here who look like this. They've been training for years, and their first cycle they're on like 1.5 grams a test their first week, and then they go up. I'm just like, and when they ask me, they say, Lee, what do you take? I say, well, I'm taking Sus 250. I only take 2 mil, so that's probably 500. If it's a real sus 250, they're like, oh, bullshit, you got to be taking more than that. I'm like, why do I? Well, I'm taking 1,500, and I'm like, no.
He's pissing oil.
Yeah.
Did guys use when did growth hormone start, Richie? What year was that?
It's funny. It just started it did start like 84 because
really?
I remember, or 80, it was 84 Olympia, because I remember seeing it at that time when I got ready for the nationals, and it was actually the recumbent monkey DNA, the monkey GH.
Oh, really? Oh, so that wasn't probably even doing anything. Did they have the
right
cadaver?
That, they came up with the cadaver GH.
Oh.
And then I don't know when it was. It was pretty much probably during Lee's career. The synthetic version came out.
When did you first try it?
I did some of the cadaver one, which I'm glad I didn't end up dying from that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I heard that was very, very potent, though. Is that true?
Very potent, but it was cadaver GH. I did that for a little bit.
Right.
But then you have to worry because it took like 1,000 dead bodies.
For like one dose, yeah.
That was the root of Alzato's central nervous.
Yeah, and you can get whatever. You can get AIDS or whatever. That's really scary.
Well, lucky there was no AIDS around them, but back then. But they had, Jacob Crutchfield.
John,
disease.
I got a business venture for you, John. With this COVID, all the bodies start going to get the cadavers. GH, come on, get on it, get on it,
and feed the rest of the dogs.
Just hang around Kumo's nursing homes in New York, wait for the bodies, and get the GH.
That's right. Yeah,
that's true, Terry. I'm not sure when you're really old that you have much GH in you.
That's the thing.
Well, take their pension then. Whatever you can get, doesn't matter.
Where do we think the Olympia is going to be held this year? You think it's going to be in Florida?
If it's going to be held.
It'll be held. Didn't you hear that Jake said he was putting more money into women's bodybuilding this year?
Yeah, somebody told me that he's going to put more money into the women's bodybuilding.
Well, they just brought wellness into.
I saw that. Yeah,
that's going to cause problems.
Why?
I want to know how much the women's bodybuilding is going up to, because when I make my comeback as a transgender, I want to know how much. I want to know what the women's is up to. Find out for me, Chris. I want to know.
Did you see the rapper? I forgot his name. He beat the women's deadlift record yesterday.
Oh
no!
I saw
without even training. He said,
"Oh, really?
I'm going to beat the women's deadlift record because while I'm lifting the weight, I'm going to identify as a woman." And
I saw that MMA. I saw an MMA fighter who was a man turned into a woman, and he smashed some woman's skull open again. It's like the second or third one.
The second time.
I'm like, God.
I mean,
so it's a woman. It was an MMA fighter, but it became a woman.
Yeah, it was a man, then he became a woman, and he's been winning, but he's been cracking their heads open.
You would love that, Lee, right? Cracking a few women's heads open.
I don't support violence. Don't try and get me on charges like Donald Trump. I will not be impeached here.
It's funny. I had Roger Stone on our TV show the other day. He's a big bodybuilding fan. He says they're now saying that they saw him by the Capitol. You see that, John?
No.
They said, we saw Roger being driven around by one of the guys that was inciting the riots at the Capitol.
Oh.
It's crazy. We live in such a messed up country.
How about that impeachment trial, guys?
I love the video. I love the video when they played, when they said that Trump used the word fight, but then they went through every Democrat that used the same sentence. And then when they were talking about peacefully go and march and peacefully protest, but then it showed the Democrats with all the protests and the fire. Yeah, the people are out here just peacefully protesting while the building's burning behind them. Nothing to see here.
That one was mostly peaceful.
Mostly
peaceful protest. The guy's standing in front of the fire, and it's mostly peaceful. I would have stood in front of the palm tree, and it's mostly peaceful.
I was in Oregon.
Any of you guys, Rich, did you get the? Have you gotten the vaccine at all? Any of you guys?
No, I haven't gotten the vaccine yet. I mean, there's a long wait here in Jersey to get the vaccine. I'm waiting for more people to get it. First.
I watched some. I was reading something today, and which is interesting. You know, the messenger RNA viruses, vaccines, the ones that work by inserting a little snippet of messenger RNA. Your cells take it up, and then they start expressing the spike protein, and then your immune system goes after the spike protein and creates antibodies towards it. The problem is that now that the spike protein is mutated in the virus, the new strains it's not going to work against. The problem is that your body is going to be expressing the spike protein forever now. So, I mean, talk about a foreign body reaction in your body. You know, do you really want your DNA changed in your body so that now you're expressing some weird spike protein that you don't really need in your body?
So
that worries me.
DNA? I thought it just produced antibodies against.
No, it actually inserts itself like a Trojan horse into your cells, and the cells, the macrophages specifically, will start expressing this protein. It'll make the spike protein, and now you have a spike protein in your bloodstream, and now your immune system goes after the spike protein and creates antibodies against it. So it's a weird. I mean, it's actually changing how it would be like inserting like a myostatin gene or whatever, or I should say that would be deleting a myostatin gene, or inserting a gene that produces luminescence, fluorescence. They do this in fish. They got called glowfish. They put the luminescence gene from the jellyfish into like all kinds of weird tropical fish, and now these fish glow from because they express the gene. You know, it's just to me it's a little weird. I don't know. I want to take a virus. I would love to have a vaccine so I don't get the virus, but at the same time I'm a little weary about how they've created.
I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm not like anti-vaccine, but when you really come down to bodybuilders today, they should be the last person complaining about putting something into their body. So, it's like, they're the last ones to talk.
Yeah, well, anything that changes your DNA worries me a little bit. You know what I mean?
They used to go to Mexico and buy drugs. What is it? Doesn't matter. Stick it in. It's $10 an ampoule. Just take it.
I got to show you guys this YouTube channel my son watches. It's the funniest YouTube channel of all time. It's called Fat TV. Have you guys seen it at all?
I don't have
Sharky, doody, Sharky.
I left off.
No. They've passed the Baby Shark. Let me pull this guy has got 4 million or something like 4 million. He's making so much money. He's a Russian guy who he's fat and he calls himself like the Fat Hulk. And all he does is say Hulk smash. He even sometimes I think they talk in Russian. My son's
he can't be too Russian if he's fat. He's very slow by the sound.
Watch this. I don't know if I can get the audio to play. That's the only problem. You can watch him though.
Hold on. I gotta go like this. Hey, is that Dave?
Who's he talking to?
That's Dave after taking species. Look, he's gone green.
Oh. My son watches this non-stop. He loves this channel.
I like the.
It's all little comedy skits. Can you hear it or no?
No.
You need to send him some species. It's the right color and everything.
Yeah.
I like Spider-Man.
My son thinks this is hysterical.
I think it's hysterical. Come watch it with him.
That's something I would do.
I look
Hulk smash. He'll fart sometimes to knock the guys over, or his bad breath he'll knock him over.
What's he got on?
They have these Russian accents.
Does he have green shoes on?
Yes.
I think they use some kind of like effect on him. I don't think he's actually painted green. I think it's like
I like the webs. The webs go in reverse.
He's got quite a rack of chins there when he's
4 million subscribers.
I like the Kmart costume. That Kmart costume with the boots that go over the top of your shoes.
That video, by the way, has 69 million views. Okay, he's probably making $150,000 to $200,000 per month, maybe more. This guy.
Wow.
Why do you think I dress as the Joker and Batman for you for comic entertainment?
We don't get that many views. The funny thing is he's got his mother involved. She's also this old Russian woman. And I think he's got his son involved. The kid looks just like him. He's fat and he's like, this is crazy. I don't know if it's his son or they just found an actor.
You're fat shaming. I just had a guy abuse me on Facebook and I looked at his profile and he looked like that. So I wrote back, you're a fat pig, 30-day ban again.
Really?
Oh, that's why you got banned? I didn't know.
Because I called him a fat pig, and I know I got a 30-day ban because I was harassment and bullying.
Holy shit.
Fat shame.
Richie, let me ask you this question, Rich. If you were, when you look at social media the way it is today with Instagram and Facebook and all the other stuff that's out there, how do you think that would have affected you? Had that been around when you were competing, would you have embraced that? You think, and because you probably would have had millions of followers, or would you have gone the other direction and said, you know what, this is interrupting my training. I can't be bothered with this.
It's funny. I think about that because when I trained, I was very much into not being disturbed, and even when I would go to California to do photo shoots and video shoots, during your training, because Chris Lund would want to see you really train. It kind of bothered me, but I think today, the way it is, I would probably look at it and say, "Wow, this is a good way to make money," and use it as a tool, as all the other bodybuilders are using it as a tool.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's nice that people can market themselves with that,
Definitely.
And make their own money and have less dependence.
It changed everything. It changed everything. Nobody gets a contract anymore because of social media.
No, it's true.
You get guys who never competed, who have millions of followers, and they've never stepped on a stage. So
it's a lot of really great, pros, and they don't have that much of a following. Some of these guys, and then these schleps that have millions of followers, and they're not winning shows.
No, they don't even compete. But they have
this,
and they go to the gym when they wear a new outfit and they show it our social media guy came out with a great line the other day in one of our meetings, and he says the camera eats first, and it's everybody, you're at a restaurant, the food comes, what happens first? They take a picture of it for social media. So the phrase is the camera eats first, the camera trains first, the camera does everything first now. And that's, man, that is the biggest difference between now and before, is that the camera goes first.
It is.
I get into so many arguments. Online with people because I'm like, if you're training for off season, sure, you can do a bit of video here and there, take some photos. But I said, if you're focused 100% for a contest, there is no way you can be on social media and at the gym. It's like, if you're going to do a hard balls to the wall leg workout, you can't be doing videos for Instagram while you're training. I said, maybe at the end of your workout, go back and do an exercise or two and film it. But if you're focused on a contest, you can't be taking all that garbage like that. They're like, yes, you can, Lee. You're just old age. You don't understand. I'm like, you can't be 100% focused. Or they're like, I've got it from my music. I said, okay, there's music in the gym. When I trained at World Gym for 8 years, there was no music. But I said, when you go to change a song, if you see you've got 6 text messages, you can't tell me you don't look who sent you a message and then just say that message is from your missus or from work. And now you read it, now you're all pissed off. It changes your whole mindset. I said, so having the phone there is more of a distraction. At the end of your workout, fine, go do what you got to do then. But during your workout, I have these arguments saying you can't be 100% focused if you got your phone on you. You just can't.
Right. Chris, who trained harder, Rich Gaspari or Lee Labrada?
Rich Gaspari.
I was there at the muscle camp, and Lee Labrada was watching me train. He goes, "You're crazy, Rich."
It's a good compliment, right, Rich?
He watched me. Because I looked at that. I said, I definitely train harder than Lee Labrada.
Yeah. Did you squat 700 pounds?
Yes,
Richie?
I did. I've done it
for reps.
Yes.
Really? Yeah. That's insane. How did you walk that off the bar? I mean, off the rack, just walking back with that.
Well, I trained at this gym called the Muscle Mill. Ronnie Capodanno, if you remember this guy.
Yeah, I remember Ronnie. Yeah.
And when I was squatting, I was bending all the bars, and then they stayed permanently bent. So you had to get the powerlifting bar that I used, and I've done over 700 pounds on squats.
That's insane. Well, that's why you have great legs.
Ronnie Coleman back then, or doing walking lunges with 405. I would do walking lunges with 275. But when I saw Ronnie Coleman doing it with 405, I was like, that's freaking nuts.
You know what, Rich? I believe that if you would have trained with Ronnie Coleman, you would have been doing the same weights as him or close to it, because you would have pushed yourself more, because you would have been like, I'm not letting this guy outlift me.
In the same condition as Ronnie.
They'd both be dead.
Yeah, you'd be in a wheelchair too, probably.
Well, they wouldn't have made it. They would have killed each other.
You're right, because I don't like losing, so I'd be like, fuck, I'm gonna do this.
Do you have any injuries from all the training?
I have similar. I have a bad neck, from all the heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm going right now to see what I have to do about it. Like, I guess what Lee did, but yours was more from a car accident, correct?
Yeah, my first operation, a car accident, but it crushed the C7 nerve between C6 and C7. And the first op where they shaved the bone away didn't work, but the one they went through the front of my throat here and put the thing in seems to be helping now. The arm's sort of getting a bit of strength back to it and stuff, so it's not too bad.
I have numbness in my hand, in my right arm.
Mm-hmm.
And
like atrophy in the tricep and that?
Yes. And it pisses me off, so I'm actually going right now.
Oh, yeah.
MRI to see what you were just saying. They want to see if they want to shave the disc or if I have stenosis, see why I have it.
Yeah, a couple of ones I know that had the same as me, where they shaved it at the back, didn't get much results, but pretty much everyone I know that had the one through the front, where they go in through the front of your neck and put the thing in between there, have all had better results with the front, so I wished I had done that one first. So.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever train with Victor Richards in the gym, Rich?
No, I never got a chance to really train with him. I don't know if he was a strong guy. Maybe Chris,
I heard he was.
Chris would know.
Valentino tells the story about he had to lift up the crazy 200-pound dumbbells for Victor.
So he was strong.
Yeah, he was pretty strong, I think. And he tells a story where he used to spot Victor, and Victor would oil up his body, I guess, before he would go to the gym. And so his hands would slip off of Rich's arms. He was trying to help him spot him. So he would put these sponges, right, on Rich's.
Yeah, Victor would yell at him. Victor would scream at him first.
He'd be like, little man, what are you doing? You're slipping. So Greg would put these disgusting, dirty sponges he would lift with on his hands so that he'd have some grip.
Gee.
Oh my God. It's a very funny story. When he tells it, it's even better. Someone wants to know, what was your first impression, Rich, after training with Lee Haney? Like the first time you actually got to train with him in the gym?
I mean, Lee Haney was very methodical in his training. He trained, a muscle part where he, focused on that muscle part. He would always say, what was his thing?
Stimulate, not annihilate.
Yeah, stimulate, not annihilate. And, I learned how to train properly with Lee, because when I moved to California, I got to train with him. And while he saw me training, I was like this crazy kid training. And he goes, you're going to train with me. I'm getting ready for the Olympia. I said, shit, yeah, I'd love to train with you. And I just learned how to train, properly, better form. I just felt that I had to annihilate to get a muscle to grow more than Lee Haney did. Lee Haney was genetically gifted where,
right.
He would do a curl I remember training, chest with him, and his chest would just like get so big.
Well, what was the first day though? What was the first workout? The first day you showed up at the gym to train with Lee. What was that? What was that like? Very first day. Walk us through it.
From what I remember, I was this really young, cocky kid that, moved to California. And my goal was like to kick everybody's ass in California, because when I went out there, I was like a big deal in New Jersey. They go, oh, you're just a big fish in a little pond. When you go to California, you're going to be a nobody. So my mission was to go to California and train harder than anybody. So when I went to the gym, like in Venice, I trained there, and the Barbarians brothers were watching me, one of them. And I went there and started training legs. And I was strong because I could squat, 700. Right. I was doing reps, with 5 plates, 6 plates for 20 reps. So I trained with one of the barbarians, and I trained so hard that he practically died. Training. And then he didn't have really big legs, so he said to me, like, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Rich Gaspari, motherfucker, and I'm going to be the next you." So when I moved, what happened was I ended up going to the Valley in Reseda, where Lee Haney was there, Albert Beckers was there, Berto Fox was there, Corey Everson was there, Fred Hatfield was there.
Wow,
a lot of big names were training in that gym. So I was just training like I said, like a maniac. And Lee said, "Hey, I like to train with would you like to train with me? I'm getting ready for the Olympia." So my first workouts, I started training with him. The first workout I started training with him was chest. And like I said, he just saw me training really heavy. And he goes, "Boy, you have to slow down. You got to really train the muscle properly." And then slowly started, doing more contraction and squeezing the muscle. And I really, like, he taught me a lot on how to train differently, where
that's cool.
I started coming up with my own system of doing like drop sets, but still training the muscle, to failure. But
yeah.
I tell you, when I trained with Lee, it wasn't like I was sitting there and he was the boss. Like, if he slow down, I go, "Lee, you're a pussy today. What are you doing?"
That's great. But he probably liked that you were pushing
No, he
him.
got so mad. He would get so mad, but I pushed him, because he would, have an off day, and I'm like, "God, you're a pussy." And we did.
Lee Haney's like so proper. Like, I would be afraid to even use that word with him, But maybe back in the day he was like a little more hardcore than that. Like now he's like I feel like I'd insult him or something like that.
So Lee was very proper, and when he trained in the gym, we're going into the gym, and he goes like, "We got to use that machine. We got to use that machine." He go, "Rich, kick him off the machine."
But then after a while of doing that, then this mob gathered one night, and they were on to assassinate.
Yes,
and
I was just a stupid kid that would kick people off machines because Lee would go, "We need to do this, that," and it got to the point where, one-on-one, nobody was going to say anything to me, but what John said, there was a mob of people outside. And when Lee was going to the gym, he goes, "What's going on, guys?" They're like, "We're going to kick your training partner's ass." So,
Lee had
to get him out of it. Yeah.
He had to get me out of it. He goes, "He's a good kid. He's just a kid."
Lee had a nickname for Rich and Lee Labrada.
What?
You remember what they were?
Rich
the Itch and Lee the Flea.
I'd rather be Rich the Itch than Lee the Flea.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time you don't say Haney, you just say Lee. I'm sitting here thinking, "Fuck, I got Alzheimer's. I don't remember any of this."
Too many Lees. Yeah, too many Lees. Rich, where did the nickname the Dragon Slayer come from?
That actually came from, I didn't call myself that. That was Jeff Everson. He did an article on me. And I guess when I started winning on my shows, he basically this guy is, is against all odds with genetics, yet he's beating all these dragons. So, he called me the Dragon Slayer.
That's interesting. And that's just stuck, huh?
It just stuck. And I was like, I didn't really even understand what the fuck's a Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, right. It was good. It sounded cool, right?
It sounded cool, but later on I learned it's cool because it's a guy who can beat against all odds, adversity or any competitor that's had better genetics than me. I was able to beat him. So that's how I was called the Dragon Slayer.
Through hard work, it comes right back to the Rain Man, right?
Hard work.
That's right. When Rich, I remember you told me when Rich started his supplement company. Here's Rich's business plan. Okay, there's 50 states. If I go to every single state, right, drive my car.
I'm like each state in a minivan. That's how it started.
It worked. It worked out. Yeah. That's called work. That's called hardcore. Blue collar, grassroots movement.
That's how I got into Europa. Europa's like, I'd like you to sell my brand. And they were like, and Eric Hillman's like, "There's no demand for your brand. I really can't sell it." Right. So, Charlotte is where their hub was, where there's only one warehouse. So I ended up going into Charlotte to all the stores in that area to get my product into there. So then they were like, Rich, there's like a demand for your product.
That's funny. That's a genius on your part, Rich. Very smart.
I used to get on good with Eric Hillman, but then when he moved up high in the IFBB and I suddenly became the bad boy, he never spoke to me again.
Oh,
which
really?
is why I should ask Rich, when I was a bad boy, you were on the judging panel. At those judges' meetings, did you ever get when that asshole Lee Priest walks out on stage, you fucking mark him down?
I was kind of like, I judged for like about 4 years. It's funny. I've never been told like, hey, vote for this guy, or it was never like that. And I don't know. I wasn't part of a clique. I was, my own guy just judging. I mean, I did well in my judging, but when people are judging, you could see who's going to place, because first, second, and third call out, first call out, second call, those are the top guys. So those are the guys you're going to vote for. So if you sit there and go, well, I think that guy's better, you're not going to get him into this, top 5.
Right. Rich, a question from one of the viewers. The emphasis on men's open bodybuilding has, I guess they're saying there's now an emphasis on size rather than conditioning. Do you think that that's taken the sport backwards? That's the question.
I mean, I think the ultimate size and conditioning was with Ronnie Coleman. The way he got, even like Lee's era. That's when guys were bigger and shredded, and then it seemed to regress more to just guys just getting bigger and bigger. So I think conditioning has to come back into play. I think the sport's constantly evolving, and I think it's going in the right direction. I think now more than ever.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think that when I see guys that like can't get in shape, and remember people said, "Oh, Ramy just doesn't have the right muscle," it's just a matter of you're not suffering enough, and that just goes to prove this year when he went out the last 3 weeks to stay with Dennis James, and they kind of kept a close eye on him, and Chad tortured him. He got in shape, and that's, everyone could get in shape, Rich. Wouldn't you agree?
I think if anyone does enough hard work, they can get in shape. And Ramy's a great example, because he was always the guy who could, who's like, man, he can win the Olympia if he ever gets in shape. This year, or last year, he got in shape. When I first started, I commentated with, Sean Ray. Sean starts calling out, Phil Heath and Brandon Curry. Yeah. I'm going, what about Ramy? He was in such great shape that at the beginning, the judges were almost like they were looking at this big rivalry against Brandon Curry and Phil Heath. But then it was so glaring. And it wasn't only his conditioning, he was also in pose conditioning. Because I know that Dennis James got him posing for like hours. He said like, he was there for like, I don't know, I think he was there for like a month or
3 weeks.
Or 3 weeks. So basically Dennis said he got him to pose like 3 times a day and just like 30, 40 minutes and just pose and pose and pose. And what I noticed about what he did which was old school. He was the first guy to hit the pose and the last to get out of it. Ramy did it that whole show. I was like, that guy's in condition. He's going to win. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. One of the viewers wants to know, do you think if Matt Mendenhall had gotten condition, he could have beaten Lee Haney?
I think so. I remember he was another bodybuilder that was training in the gym that I was at in the Reseda Golds. It was Matt Mendenhall. And he was always this guy that, he always complained about, elbow problems and knee problems. And I just remember being in the gym there, and like the guy just didn't train hard. He had great genetics, and he was gifted. I mean, there's a guy I went against in '83, and he came in 4th, and I came in 5th that year. And he was supposed to always be this guy to get his pro card, and he just never got his pro card.
Joe wanted him to really bad too, and it just never would happen.
I heard that. Who's he dating? He was dating
Rachel McLeish. Oh, you told me that, Chris, right?
And I think Rachel McLeish kind of screwed him up.
Who told you that? Who told you that, Bob?
Bob.
Bob Gresham.
Rachel's never going to get where he needs to get. Rachel. Like Rachel McGlish.
Yeah, they were an item in the gym. I remember.
That's funny. Yeah, when you start training with your girlfriend, I don't care if she's Miss Olympia or not. It's probably not the best fucking motivation, you know.
Well, I mean, back, like I told you, in that gym was a lot of great bodybuilders, and Lee picked me to train with him. And Lee said, I wanted to train with Matt Mendenhall because he almost beat him in that nationals. You know, he came in second. So Lee's like, let me train with this guy. And Lee goes, he was horrible. He goes, I don't know if Matt's listening to this. I hope not. But he just said he didn't train as hard, you know, that he wanted to get himself to be better. Lee wanted to get better. And he just he training with Matt was the way to get better.
Yeah. Well, he definitely picked the right person with you, that's for sure.
I was going through YouTube the other day. You know, when you watch one video, it goes to another video, goes to another video, and what popped up was the 88 Mr. Olympia in LA, and that was a pretty good show, that one.
Oh, that was
great Olympia.
Really great show.
Phil Hill and Edward Koak was in great shape in that one too.
The production value, remember, Lee?
It's like a purpley blue stage, the lighting.
Yeah, that was the first time the Olympia became like this, right? It was like a big event. Where was that? Where they had the where
in
was
LA.
It was in the Los Angeles Convention Center.
Oh, was it the convention center?
Yeah.
Well, what year was it when? I know because Rich used the final countdown. There was one year you used the final countdown. I think then Barry DeMay came out with the final countdown. And someone else had the final countdown.
They all copied Rich.
So no, what happened was I wanted to get a song different. So it was Europe, the final countdown. So, you know, in the United States, like nobody's going to have this band because it's Europe. But I didn't think that there's European bodybuilders in the show. It was good as I got to do the routine first, and then it was the other guys did it after me. So at least I was saying like they were copying me.
Yeah. Well, you had the crazy. That was a crazy routine for you. You know, you wouldn't.
I think that was the 88 one. That's when Bob Paris did. Was it Tracy Chapman when he finished laying on the stage? Like
with the bow and arrow.
Rich, what was your relationship with Lee after, like, you were right on his tail for 3 years?
We stayed good friends. Like I said, I've always respected Lee. And even when I was second place, you know, I would call him up and said, I'd always say, like, you know, Lee, you better be in shape because I know I'm going to be in shape.
I'm sure that drove him to be in, like.
Well, that's what he said. Like, you know, I pushed him because I go, I know you got better genetics than me, but I'll be in shape. So if you're off, I'm going to beat you. And he gets so.
Rich, any regrets in your bodybuilding career?
Any regrets? I think one of the regrets I have is going into all those Grand Prix, and then I did win the Arnold Classic, but I really was burnt out. And what happened that year, because of doing all those shows, I ended up tearing a pec, and I was never the same after that. And I felt that I should have taken a break. You know, I
didn't know that had been a major setback for you, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. What year did you win that was the first one?
89.
89.
What was that like, that Grand Prix with D'Amelia and all that?
That was grueling because it was 7 Grand Prix. It was all within 30 days. Some of the shows they had on a Friday and a Saturday, and sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we'd be on the plane going to the next city, and we'd have enough time to just put our posing trunks on the plane, like go right to the theater, and go on stage. So it was crazy, and and I was so competitive, and I never lost from that point, only to Lee Haney, and it was the first time I lost to Lee Labrada, and it was, to me, it was like devastating, you know, mentally devastating to lose. But that whole Grand Prix, it was, I would win and then Lee would win, and then I would win and then Lee would win. So I was making sure the last show was in Italy, and because I'm Italian, I said, I win this show. Yeah, and I ended up winning it. So he won 3 and I won 4 of those Grand Prix.
Right.
But it
was it a matter of conditioning? Because I mean, it was probably so hard to stay dry and conditioned, you know, throughout that whole, because you were eating probably crappy food and you were traveling.
No, I was not eating crappy food.
Oh, you had all your food with you?
I put a duffel bag of tuna rice. I did not eat anything outside. If I did, I had to make sure I was just, Chris Aceto. Everything was measured.
I'm sure Lee. You know who? I take that back because the other person who measured their food, 87, was Lee.
Yeah, Lee
was another. So I guarantee he didn't eat one thing off on that tour. I guarantee
we were on that tour. It was funny because you mentioned guys like Eduardo Coac. By the end of the tour, he was a fat pig.
Hey,
that would be Lee. Lee did the same thing.
Hey,
Lee was going to McDonald's.
That was in 97 when I did the tour. But in 97, we had 7 shows in 9 days. So every day it was almost a show. We got 1 day's break because I think Kevin was winning, NASA was second, I was third. Then another show, NASA won, Kevin, I was third. I got third at 4 of them. After the 4th one, we got to Helsinki. We had a day's break. So me, Paul Dillette, and Vince Taylor found this Chinese restaurant. It was all over after that.
The buffet, John. They found the buffet. I knew Lee went to the buffet.
And then that night when we got back to the hotel, we were eating food and NASA was over there and NASA was starting to take diuretics because he was starting to lose his shape. So we sent this chocolate cake over to the table to NASA. He almost killed the waiter and NASA just leaps out of his chair. Who sent this? You think this is funny? This isn't funny. And the waiter's like, they sent it. And Dillette and I we're laughing our heads off, and he's like, "This isn't funny." I was like, "Yeah," because. And then on that tour, because we had 7 shows.
Lee, I do not appreciate the chocolate cake that you have sent me because
sorry,
that is fine. I have fucked your girlfriend after you have done that to me.
Well, he did try and root Kathy at a photo shoot once. I think he flopped it out in front of her.
That was total mess.
But the thing was, when we did that show, because one of them, our plane got delayed, as like Rich said, the show in Spain was meant to start at 7, but we didn't get there till 11 because of the plane delay. So we went straight from the airport to the bus to the venue, pumped up, went on stage, back to the hotel, got to the hotel about 1:30 in the morning, up at 5, back at the airport. And the couple of the guys were talking to Wayne and were saying to Wayne, this really sucks, this tour. And this is Wayne's exact words on the bus. Wayne's sitting there, goes, guys, I know how you feel, guys. I just brought a new leather recliner. I haven't even had a chance to sit in it. We're like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's almost just relating to it, Wayne. Thanks.
Wayne probably was pocketing. I'm sure Wayne pocketed a fortune on that tour.
Ronnie won the last one there because Ronnie wasn't doing too good at the shows. I think in the very last one he beat Kevin because Kevin was pretty much winning them all. And when Ronnie beat him, Kevin was devastated. But when we go to these places and they have like a buffet, Ronnie was actually eating, as we're going off our diet, Ronnie was getting more stricter on his diet. And it got to the point where we were at one place and it had all these boiled eggs and Ronnie took them and he had them for like 2 days. And he undid this container on the bus, and it was like I think he was so ripped at the last show because he had like salmonella poisoning or something, and probably just got sick because that's just the food he was eating. It was like gross. Yeah, once we found the Chinese and Hungry Jacks, Vince Taylor and I and Paul, it was the end of us. By the time I got to Russia, I said to Wayne, "Look, Wayne, I'm a little bit off now. Don't even call me out. Just leave me at the back of the stage." Wayne's like, okay, Lee, you're right. You just stand there. Very last call out. Lee Priest, Vladilov. He called me out with these 2 Russians that looked like swimmers and put me right in the middle. I just looked at him like, you asshole. He's sitting there laughing.
Rich, any good Mike Christian stories?
I mean, with Mike, he was very competitive. And, it's funny because I was that kid that came into California. And he was, the guy who came second to Bob Paris. And in 84, he ends up winning and getting the overall on the Nationals and the Universe. And he was the heir apparent to beat, Lee Haney. So he didn't expect me to be the guy to beat him. Right. So he was a little pissed off that I was beating him in shows, because he was always the guy that they said would be the guy who would beat Lee Haney. And
you know what year I thought he might have beat?
Good rivalries because one of the shows was the 86 Pro World before the Arnold started. And that's when I was first known to be I came in ultra striated glutes. Right. And, he was favored to win. And he was doing a sodium load. And I guess it didn't work. So he was holding water.
Oh no.
That was in LA, right?
He went to do that was the other show, the LA show.
The LA Pro. Okay.
I beat him in the pro world, and then I beat him in LA, and he was pissed that I beat him.
I thought the only time did you see was it Chicago when they drug tested the Olympia and Christian got third? I think I thought went close to looking like he could have won it that year when they drug tested that
he looked phenomenal. The thing was that he was
not natural.
I didn't know what to take. I ended up taking like water-based tests, Anavar, and I think it was like about 4 weeks out. I did andriols too because they get out of your system real quick. Yeah. I did that up to like 4 weeks out, and then I was clean. I don't think Mike Christian was clean.
Yeah.
he was on something that he because you had to do the piss test, and he goes, "I can only do it at this time." So it was something he was using.
Was that 90? Was that 91? Was that 91? The drug tested one, was it?
Yeah, that's when John. That's when Duchesne was selling Defend.
Yep.
Defend.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you had to drink it. And like within 90 minutes, like Rich says, you had to, it worked for like this window, whatever you
an hour and a half. That was it.
It's a not John Romano. It was a Dan Duchesne product.
Yep.
That you mix in 16 ounces of water or something.
It's
and
still around, by the way. It's sold under the name Zydot now. You can get it at Zydot.com. I think they bought the thing. I think they bought it.
When I saw Mike Christian, I'm like, holy crap, he looks really good.
I remember that year, Lee Haney wasn't at his best that year, but then 92 in Florida when the stage turned around and Lee Haney standing there, you're like, what the fuck?
In shape. He was definitely in shape.
That was incredible.
Rich, what was the biggest check you ever cashed in bodybuilding?
The Arnold Classic, 55 grand.
Wow. And now think about the checks nowadays.
Yeah, but that was the first time. I think the year before the Olympia was 25,000, and then Arnold brought the Arnold to 55,000, and then that following year they made the Olympia at 60 grand, and they had this rivalry where they were going up 5,000 every year.
Yeah, that's right.
Into the 6 figures.
What'd you get for second place in '87?
Well, Lee was getting I guess he was getting 25 or 30 grand, and I was getting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's before it became 50. I was getting 10, 15.
Second place. Wow.
Yeah. Like the Grand Prix were anywhere. They were 10,000 for first place. Those Grand Prix shows.
Oh, those were good, Rich. That was a nice paycheck then.
Well, then, I got 4 of them, so that was 40 grand.
Yeah, but you almost died by some guys.
Were you like me in the beginning where I had to pay back taxes when I got my check? I wasn't paying tax on that. I'm like, fuck it, I worked hard for that. I'm not giving up any tax money. I went out and buy a new car. And then they're like, excuse me, Mr. because my papers are McCutcheon. Excuse me, Mr. McCutcheon. We've got your green card here, but you also owe us 50,000 in back taxes.
Oh, no way.
Isn't that what happened to Paul Dillette? He owed taxes and he had to run away to Canada?
I think so. Yeah, I had to start paying mine, but the little bit that I owed in back tax, I owed more in penalties every year because if you didn't pay it right down, whatever you had left, they'd put penalties back on top of it. So if you owed 60, you might pay it down to 40, 38. If you can't pay the 38, they'll put it back up. So I was like, I dyed it hard for this shit. I'm not giving up any of it.
Yeah, well, it's funny in the Olympia, I competed in '85 in Belgium. They took the taxes out.
Right there.
Belgium.
Oh wow!
They weren't supposed to take out taxes. I'm only supposed to pay when I get to the United States. But they took the taxes out for Belgium. It was like, why am I paying Belgium taxes? I'm an American.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
That was like the good old days when you could go guest posing in the good old days, and you'd always tell the promoter, cash. Just cash.
And then you had to take all that cash and bring it home when you got 50, 60 grand when it says in a big sign.
You couldn't go over, 10,000.
You have to stash it in your socks and stuff, yeah.
I know.
Would Ferrigno have beaten Frank Zane from 77 to 79, Richie?
I mean, that era was the era of Zane, that type of physique, when he was winning. because I felt Mike Menzer should have beaten him. I felt Robbie Robinson should have beaten him, but he won in those shows. I don't know. I mean, Lou did have some weaknesses. You know, his legs were not that good. I would think still Zane would have won.
Okay. Rich, another question. Did Vince McMahon ask you to join the WBF?
Yes, he did. In '92, they basically, you know, wined and dined me to sign up with the WBF, and they actually came pick me up with a limo and drove me to Connecticut where their offices were. And I wasn't dealing with Vince. I was dealing with Linda McMahon.
Okay, I know his wife here. I know Linda.
Yeah, Linda McMahon. And they were basically, what happened is they were offering me $250,000, which back then was a lot of money.
Wow.
But what was bad is they accidentally gave me Barry DeMay's contract, and his contract was worth $300,000. So I'm
really?
like, I did better than Barry DeMay. I want $300,000.
Were they going to give it to you?
Well, what happened was they did increase it, but then, you know, Weider offered me a contract, and, you know, I was getting, you know, Ben Weider calling me, Joe Weider calling me, Vince McMahon calling me to go into, you know, which federation, you know, and,
right.
You know, and basically Joe said, you know, if you go there, you can never come back, you know, you're done, you know, all that's, you know, we've made you famous, you know, this is why you're famous all over the world. And I still in my heart wanted to win the Olympia. I probably should have taken the check.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that was it. You know, that was after, you know, you already.
That was one of the ones when he said, "What was your regrets?" I should have taken it because I could have had $600,000 because it was 2-year contract that they.
Wow!
That they gave. My God! It was guaranteed 2-year contract, and I know Gary Stridham got a lot of money. You know, for
Rich, that's a huge decision you had to make. I mean, that really, you must have been like had sleepless nights over that. That's a lot of money you gave up.
And you know, the difference wasn't about money because Joe gave me $100,000. So I did. Okay. All right. Grand over $300,000. And I know that sounds stupid, but I was like, oh, I don't want to ruin my name. I want to go down, you know, IFBB history, and so I'm not taking it.
It was a good decision.
I remember when Aaron Baker. Remember when Aaron Baker went over and looked. Aaron took it, but then when Aaron came back to the IFBB, and when he came back, he looked fantastic at some of those shows, but he never seemed to place too well again after that.
I thought Aaron Baker had a great physique, and like you said, Lee, like he didn't place because he took that that money from the WBF.
Him and David, because David Durf come back and did a couple more IFBB shows, but after that too, he never seemed to place well again when he came back.
Yeah, they did punish the competitors,
but they said they didn't.
No, yeah, but they said they did. Well, you know, bodybuilding is a subjective sport, so they are
nationalize anything, right?
Anything.
There was a lot of bad blood there, I think, between McMahon and Weider, definitely.
Well, if I was just talking to you, Dave, about it the other day. If Vince didn't come in, then the big contracts would have never come in.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, right? Is that true? Did you think, was Joe cheap before that, Rich?
Well, I just told you before, he was offering $3,000 and $4,000 in pages and magazines. And then all of a sudden, I got offered $100,000. So yeah, went from that definitely increased it where, you know, Joe had to start giving money to the athletes, which I think was a good thing. He was able to do that.
What did Chris, what did Joe say to you when you asked him about that? Because I know you used to go to his office all the time back then.
When I told him what?
No, when Vince started coming around, you know, and started offering all these big contracts.
He told me that he said that I made all these guys and I'll make new champions. I got the magazine. That's what he said. he was really hurt, like when people left, which is bizarre because you have to ask yourself. I told him that. I mean, not like direct, but I mean, I knew what people were getting, like nothing. Yeah. Right. And they were getting offered, Rich says, from $3,000 to 250. I mean, from 36,000 a year to 250. So, you know, 8 times the money, whatever it is, 10 times the money. And then, you know, to be offended that people are taking it as like bizarre. You're offended when you say like, okay, I'm paying Rich, $3,000 a month and he's leaving for $4,000 a month. Where's the loyalty? Or he's leaving for $5,000 a month.
Right.
So even for $100,000, it was a lot of money. And the way we made our money back then was to do exhibitions and seminars, sell your picture. So, I would be able to make six figures, but I had to work at it. I had to do a lot of seminars, a lot of guest posings every weekend. And that's how you made your money. But, Joe goes, you're making that money because of my magazine.
It's like putting the old guilt trip on you.
Yeah. I remember
to defend him, he was 100% right that you were making that money because of his magazine. But implied in there was this idea that he didn't have $100,000 to give you.
Yeah, he had the $100,000.
And it's funny how it just,
all of a sudden he found
it.
But
the thing was, you could never get mad at Joe, because I remember when I first signed with Joe, he gave me $2,000 a month, and then later on, it'd be time for contract renewal. He'll go, "Oh, don't worry about it, Lee. Just come up," and he'll give me $3,000. Then as I'm getting more popular and doing stuff, I say to people, "I'm going up there, but I'm not leaving with less than $5." And for some reason, he's just such a nice guy. You go in, you start talking to him, he's talking to you. I'm thinking 5 in my head, 5 or 6. How about I give you 4? Okay. Fuck.
Listen,
like Ben, I never got on well with Ben. I never got on good with Ben, but Joe just had that like grandfather type thing. He just talked to you nicely. So whatever he said, I'm like, okay, that's fine, Joe. No problem.
The straw that broke the camel's back with Joe was when Frigno said, "I'm bolting."
Yeah.
That
when
must
Lou
have hurt him,
Frigno, who hadn't competed and was a legend, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm coming out of retirement and I'm going to compete for, the WBF. What did they give him, Rich?
If they were giving me $250 and then $300, they're probably giving him like 500,000.
Yeah. I heard, what did you hear that Joe gave Lou?
I thought it was $500,000.
Yeah, I heard it was $1 million, so it might have been 2 years.
Well,
I think McMahon probably offered him $750. I bet you McMahon offered Lou $750.
Really?
I think so. What was it, John?
For 2 years.
Is that really what it was?
I'm not positive, but I know that the deal. I know that everybody was getting 2-year deals except Stridham. Stridham somehow got a 3-year deal.
Right, Rich? I mean, it was mind-blowing news that Lou Ferrigno is coming back to bodybuilding and he's not competing at the Olympia. People were like, "Holy shit!" McMahon's out of his mind. Like, he's throwing as much money as possible at these guys to take over in one big swoop.
Yeah.
I always just think I think they had it planned up at the office, because I'd go in there when it was near contract time, and you'd go in with this figure in mind, and they must knew it was contract time. And Annalise, his secretary, would always nice talk you before you got to see Joe, so she'd be all lovely too. So if you went in all amped up with this thing in mind, by the time you finish talking to Annalise and get to Joe, you're just nice and calm. And when Joe says, "I'll give you this much," you're like, "Thank you, Joe. That's very nice. See you later." And you get down to your car, and you're like, "Fuck! I fucking signed a fucking contract."
The interesting thing about Ferrigno is that if Ferrigno would have stuck with McMahon because Joe didn't want to pony up the money, would they have given Ferrigno the title? Because it was all kind of just it wasn't real bodybuilding show.
I mean, they made Gary Stridham the champion.
Yeah.
It probably would have been him against Gary Stridham.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure for that amount of money, they would have at least maybe had one win and then had a rematch. They would have had a good rivalry, though, probably.
But I tell you, Gary looked phenomenal as a WBF athlete. I mean, that's
best he ever looked.
That's
what year was that, Rich?
That was 92 and 93.
Okay, now I'll tell you, when 88 Olympia, Gary was mind-numbing 12 weeks out.
Really?
And he weighed 286 or 283. And I mean, I'd see him up at the bodybuilding camp, and he came into the Olympia that year 229.
Yeah.
Wow. He went from 229 to 39, 49, 59, 69. he was definitely a 275 guy on stage that year in 88. And I don't know what happened. You know, it was what I know.
He
exactly
overdieted probably.
Dave, I know exactly what happened because I was thinking it the other day. He decided, you know, how much I'm gigantic, you know, on how much size I'll still outmuscle these guys. But sometimes you can be the biggest guy and still end up not big enough by chasing condition.
And he didn't have a great back.
No. But at 229, he had none that year.
He had no back, yeah.
Well, I want to thank Rich for joining us today. And Rich, I know you and John have your John. You want to plug the podcast?
Well, we got a bunch of stuff to plug.
All right, yeah, do the plugs before I let you guys go.
I'll let him do
the podcast Rich and I do every week. We do our own podcast called Fitness, Fame, and Fortune. It's on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. But I think the big thing is Rich just came out with a really good ebook called the Classic Physique Bible, where he goes through and basically empties his head of absolutely everything that he did.
That's awesome.
As a pride, and it's really well done. He's got video embedded in the book, so like he's like explaining the exercises and tips and but you do this and do that, you know. And I think it's the most comprehensive training book that's out there, you know, and you get legend status along. So I mean, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Who's messing around with the audio? Is that you, Lee, messing around with your audio? I hear all kinds of like.
I took my headphones out because the battery was going flat.
It's ruining it. All right. It's making a lot of noise though.
We're gonna have you guys on our show next week, and then we'll.
I'd love to get well, definitely Lee, but Chris as well. You know, because Fitness, Fame, and Fortune. We already had Dave on the show.
Yeah, it was fun.
People in this field that have been able to become famous and then monetize or make a living, and all you guys been able to do that. So
your pal Sugar Sean says it's because I chase guys with the best genetics and say I can help you.
Well, then we can talk about it on the show.
You mean like George
Chris didn't see this before the show started. Chris didn't see this.
Oh, do your magic trick, Lee.
Chris, look. Put me on camera so I can see better.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on.
Because I can't see.
Close though. Back up a little bit.
What?
Yeah, back up.
Here?
Back up. Yeah, right there.
So he's going to put that bottle inside that coin.
Yeah, I see that.
Coin in the
I got to show you. So it's like this. Look, coin. Oh, there I am over there. And look.
Whoa. Chris Angel. He's taking over.
Look at that.
That's what Joe did to you, Lee. You wanted the $8,000, and he said, "Okay, $8."
He fleeced me.
No, what he did is this, Lee. Lee went in and said, "Joe, I need that $8,000," and he says, "Perfect, 740 days. I'll give you a 2-year deal."
I'll leave you. I'll leave you with this.
While I was sitting out there before I went in there, I would sit there, and as Richard, if you went up to his office, as you're sitting there, I would see those Remington statues thinking, he can afford it. I'm not asking for much. This statue costs more than my contract, so I can't be asking too much.
Listen, Rich or Lee, I just posted on my Instagram, and I sent it to Dave because the building, the Weider building, sold last year for $12 million or $14 million.
Oh,
wow.
But was that not a gorgeous building? Like when you walk up and you're like, wasn't it
like a Colosseum? It's like going to the
Colosseum
Colosseum in Italy or somewhere.
It was like visiting the White House or something, right?
Or the Roman Colosseum. You'll just see this building.
The whiteness of it all,
When Weider sold the magazines, did he sell that building too, or no?
No, he kept it.
The building was Betty's. Betty owns the building.
Oh, okay.
She leased it to Joe.
Who got all those?
Yep.
Who got all those huge oil paintings inside of all the bodybuilders as soon as you walk in the foyer?
He donated all that stuff to somewhere in University of Texas or.
Oh, really?
I used to just sit there looking at the gold frames, going, "That frame's got to be at least $100,000."
You didn't hang all that shit in the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame.
There is no Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to leave you with this one story. In 1988, I was in my dorm room in Franklin and Marshall College. I had really just started bodybuilding. I had trained in high school, but I was a runner in college, and I started getting into bodybuilding the last year I was in school. It's 88 or 89, and I had all the Weider magazines, and I remember seeing those ads. Remember that Victory line of products that Joe Weider had? It was Rich, Barry DeMay, and was it Lee Haney? I think.
I was sponsored at 18 years old by the Victory range in Australia. I was standing inside that V.
They were so expensive, but I said, I want to look like Rich Gaspari. I got to get ripped like that. And I bought those vitamins. And you know what? If you read all the stuff that was in there, they were really good quality products he had in there. He was ahead of his time, essential fatty acids and all kinds of crazy stuff. The protein powders for that time were pretty good. They tasted really good, at least. And I spent a lot of money on that thing because I remember seeing you, Rich Gaspari, in those ads, you know. So it worked.
It's cool.
Look at you, Rich fleecing them young kids out of their money.
Rich was only getting $2,000 though.
I got to say, Rich had to get his $4,000. Come on.
Weider was making big buku bucks on those things. Yeah. It was great marketing though on his part because it was very high end.
But plus two, when you signed the contract with Joe, he'd always soften you too. How about I put you undercover next month? You're like, oh, okay.
That's the Blackman line. Yeah, Tim. Blackman used that line.
Make you a star.
Make you a star. This way you can try to avoid, paying you the extra 10 grand.
Did you ever have Joe go to a photo shoot with you, Rich? Because Joe would want it one way. The photographer wants it this way. They would argue. I did a cover once, and I had this girl who had to sit on my shoulders, and Joe's like, Lee, I love it when you put your arms out like that. Great pose. Joe covers me in oil, gets the girl to do the splits across my shoulder. So I got to hold her ankles, sitting on my shoulders. All I feel is a beaver in the back of my neck. And Joe's like, sit up, flex the arms, tense the abs, do it this way. And she's sliding this way, she's sliding that way. And I'm thinking, just use that suction cup thing and stick on the back there, will you? Do something. I think Joe and Robert Reef were just going back and forth. No, I don't want it that way. Do the lighting this way. It's like, oh, bloody hell.
He was at all my photo shoots. He would definitely. He was very hands on with that.
How many covers did you do, Rich?
In Muscle and Fitness and Flex, I think I probably got around 20.
Wow!
He did make you, huh?
Yeah. They put in a lot of covers.
It's so funny. Who said he was hands on? Rich.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, I talked to Dave. This week, and I told Dave he'd work morning, noon, and night because that's what he loved to do. And sometimes on the weekends, he'd call employees and say, like, it's Joe calling. He'd be like, let's say Rich was like the photo editor. Meet me in the office at 9. And then, what are you going to say? No.
Yeah.
And the person would like.
You'd have to leave your family. Rich, do you remember the first cover you appeared on? Like where you first saw it? Like on what newsstand and everything?
Well, the first cover I got was when I competed in the Night of the Champions, and I came in second. Mm-hmm. And it was a scene of me with this old car. It was with Jerry Candela.
I remember that, yeah.
And the first time I saw that cover, it was in New York in a newsstand. When I saw that thing, I was like, wow. I made it.
That's right. That was the most important thing, I think, for bodybuilders.
When I turned, when you were always waiting, like now everything's, with the internet. Getting in that magazine, and when I first won the Nationals in Universe, and then I did a bunch of traveling, and I went to Tahiti. It was one of my first guest posing, and on the stop was in New Zealand. And I was at the New Zealand airport, and the guy goes, Rich Gaspari. I'm like, holy crap, this guy in New Zealand recognizes me.
That's great.
Were you like me when it was on the stand? If it wasn't at the front of the stand, you'd move them all to the front. And then you'd hope that when you go pay for it, you put it down, you're hoping, do you recognize me? Do you recognize me?
I would do that.
You wait for him to go, is that you? But generally, when I was in contest shape on the cover, I looked nothing like my off season. So me saying that's me, they go. Even when I traveled, because I'd travel with a passport when I was in shape, and when I was 285, I'd get the customs. They'd be like,
"What the hell happened to you?"
The flight. I'm holding a bit of water from the flight.
Anyway, all right, we're going to wrap this up. I know Rich has got to go back to sleep, and we all have to go to sleep, actually. And thank you, Rich, for taking the time. I know, once again, your schedule was a little screwed up, but you know what? This was a great episode. And you know, like I said, anytime you want us on your show, we'd love to go on there as well
definitely.
Help you guys and cross-promote and, you know, keep up the great work. And we love the fact that you're still giving back to the industry and still as passionate about it as that 13-year-old kid who first started lifting weights.
Hey. It is hard work.
I'll have to send these T-shirts. I'll send these T-shirts to Rich.
Yeah.
Especially in Jersey.
The assassination one, yeah.
I dare you to wear this one to the airport.
Yeah.
You know, Rich is a big believer in one of my quotes too. Maybe you said it first, but the only way you can really not succeed is to quit. And if you don't quit, you can't fail. And that's really the take-home message from your whole life and your success in this industry, Rich. Don't quit.
Don't quit.
And with that message, guys, you know how we always end every show with Heavy Muscle Radio, guys.
The truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.
It's the final countdown.
See you next week.
Next week.